Chapter 2641, Murderous Motive, the 9 Stars. Looking at the 9 stars that were surrounding him, something dawned on Jian Wushuang. The transmigration sword formation that he operated controlled 9 infernal blood divine swords at once. The infernal blood divine swords could all join together as one, as well as making individual attacks just like the 9 stars. However, the 9 stars' usage of samsara strength and their coordination with each other provided Jian Wushuang a completely new understanding. The Crimson Stone Fort experts at the mineral vein were stunned by the power of 9 stars when Scorpion King performed the master stroke. That's 9 asteroids. Master Scorpion King's most powerful master stroke, 9 asteroids. Are we under attack? Doesn't seem so. This master stroke isn't unleashed for a fight with an expert. It looks more like a demonstration for someone. Look at the center of the 9 stars. There's a man. Isn't that the Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord? Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord. The Heaven Ultimate Gods were all surprised and confused. They could already see that Scorpion King was performing his most powerful move as a demonstration for someone, and the observer was none other than the Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord. However, how did the Territorial Lord come to have such a relationship with Master Scorpion King that he was willing to treat him with such honor? A while later, the 9 stars gradually dispersed. How do you feel, Jianyi? Scorpion King looked over. Pretty good, thank you very much, Master Scorpion King. Jian Wushuang thanked him again. Ha, it's really nothing, I hope it helps. You may go. Scorpion King waved his hand. Jian Wushuang bowed at Scorpion King and then left for his campground. After his return, Jian Wushuang sat in a lotus position in his penthouse, feeling really moved. Scorpion King gave him quite a bit of benefit in that encounter. First of all, there were the 50 divine elixir pills. Although Jian Wushuang truly wanted to have divine elixir pills, 50 of them was not enough for him to break through to high-class Earth Ultimate God from primary class. Nevertheless, it was still immensely helpful for his divine power accumulation. The most important thing, though, was the master stroke that Scorpion King demonstrated. The 9 stars that were morphed from samsara strength contained transmigration lore that was very deep. The trajectory that the 9 stars formed and the battle tactic were all truly worth Jian Wushuang's detailed studies. Very soon, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to study. Peace had once again returned to the blood gem mineral vein. Word about royal blood gem was not leaked and Jian Wushuang did not encounter any trouble. On top of that, seeing how well he was treated by Scorpion King, the people from Crimson Stone Fort knew that he was highly regarded by Scorpion King. Hence, even Jin Yihang had been behaving himself, not creating any more conflicts with Jian Wushuang and his official army. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. In addition to the 2 years prior to that, the blood gem mineral vein had been extracted for 7 years and was finally exhausted. In the Grand Palace Hall, Master Scorpion King, according to early statistics, the blood gem that we have mined in the past 7 years has amounted to 3.7 billion pounds. There are also a few £1,000,000 higher quality ones among them. Xianxia reported respectfully before Scorpion King. 3.7 billion pounds. The numbers sound astonishing even for Scorpion King. His face betrayed a stroke of joy upon hearing that number. The market rate of blood gem is 10 primordial stones per pound. The 3.7 billion is worth 37 billion primordial stones, and that is a huge income for Crimson Stone Fort. With that amount, Her Excellency the Fort Master could have quite a load off her shoulder. Scorpion King smiled and ordered, Xianxia, pass down the order to have them gather all the blood gem into an interspatial ring and pass it to me. Recuperate and regroup tonight. We shall take off to Crimson Stone Fort by the break of dawn. Aye. Xianxia took the order. Oh yes, do inform the Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord and his official army about our departure tomorrow, reminded Scorpion King. Xianxia nodded and left to pass down the order. At that moment, many black-clad figures gathered in a forest not too far from the blood gem mineral vein. At a glance, there were no less than 40 men. We've gotten confirmation that the divine demons who were mining blood gems at the mineral vein have already been dismissed and the Crimson Stone Fort people will be departing tomorrow. Looks like the blood gem mineral vein has been emptied by them, said a sharp-browed old man dressed in a black robe with his lowered voice. He. It's been 7 years. It took tens of thousands of divine demons to mine for a total of 7 years to empty the mineral vein. How much blood gems were there in the mineral vein? There has to be at least 3 billion pounds, yes? A man in purple hair smiled demonically. As per our agreement, you and I should get half each. No problem, but we have to think of a way to steal the blood gems from Scorpion King. He's not one to be simply messed with, said the sharp-browed old man. HMPH. He's definitely not one to mess with. Nobody among the primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods in Danyang Holy Domain is an equal match to him when it comes to one-on-one battle. But this time our sects are working together. We have a total of 4 Grand Ultimate God. Regardless of how skillful Scorpion King is, there's not much he can do but to be slaughtered. And he is the most trusted right-hand man of the current Fort Master Xianxia. His death would be a devastating blow to Xianxia, and she wouldn't be able to suppress the other factions in Crimson Stone Fort. By then, their conflict will probably blow up. All we have to do is to collect our benefits while they're at it, said the purple-haired man. True that. The sharp-browed old man smiled faintly. All right, let's not waste our time talking. Let's just stick to our plan and take action tonight, said the purple-haired man. Very well. The sharp-browed old man nodded seriously. Right then, the party of 40 began to move. It was midnight. The night sky could not be more beautiful. The mountains where the blood gem mineral vein was were brightly lit up. Official army officers gathered in small groups, chatting casually. The mineral vein has finally been mined completely. We can finally return to Northern Darkstar Continent tomorrow. Xianxia, guarding this place for 7 years was a boring job, watching those people mining every day. So glad that it's finally over. It was rather boring, but we've earned a lot though. The 2 rewards that His Excellency the Territorial Lord gave us alone were a lot of primordial stones to split among us. That's already a high earning. That's true. Our current Territorial Lord is a lot more generous than our previous one. Needless to say, his ability is also a lot stronger than our previous Territorial Lord. They're simply not on the same level. Naturally, we can't compare them at all. Chapter 2642, Upheaval. Jian Wushuang was gliding by the void around them and overheard the soldiers' conversation by chance. Jian Wushuang smiled. It's because I've gained great benefit from the blood gem mineral vein, especially royal blood gem. Otherwise, I can't afford to be so generous. He would not mistreat his men, but those soldiers were only peak divine demons or regular ultimate gods after all. Even the commanders were only peak ultimate gods, hence those primordial stones that Jian Wushuang gave them were quite plentiful. Tomorrow will be the day to say bye to this mineral vein. Jian Wushuang gave out a slight sigh as well. There was not much for him to worry about moving onward since the royal blood gem secret had not leaked. Even if someone talked about it after many years, his abilities would certainly have been at an even higher level where he could protect himself. Jian Wushuang casually glided. Suddenly, ring. A bolt of energy wave came from not far away. It was too vague that none of the official army soldiers reacted to it, but Jian Wushuang immediately sensed it. This wave. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Enemy attack. Immediately be prepared. Jian Wushuang shouted urgently as his voice resonated between the mountains where the mineral vein was located. Many official army soldiers at the mineral vein, including those Crimson Stone Fort experts, were immediately alerted at once. Meanwhile, the faces of those few black-robed men who gathered together at the place where the energy wave started turned grim upon hearing the shout. Damn, I thought there's no heaven ultimate god left in this area. How could someone discover us? Don't care, let's move now. All right. Boom boom. The vague energy wave stopped hiding as huge energy burst out. The energy burst did not only go in one direction but spread out to 5 other directions in the mineral vein as well. A blurry grey light immediately began to expand in all 6 directions, which covered the entire mineral vein. The entire blood gem mineral vein was shrouded in a grey light within only the blink of an eye. Is this a magic formation? The bullish black battle armor donning Scorpion King had already appeared way up in the air while looking at the mineral vein that had already been shrouded in the grey magic formation with an unhappy expression. He waved his large hand and charged fiercely with his gigantic fist at it like a huge mountain. The Scorpion King's punch contained the extremely powerful energy of a grand ultimate god. However, it only slightly shook grey magic formation when the punch landed, which very soon became still again. What powerful magic formation! Scorpion King squinted slightly as his cold voice suddenly resonated. Who are you losers? Show yourselves! Scorpion King's loud command swept in all directions with incredible force. Ha ha, Scorpion King. No need for that big temper, Scorpion King. It's been a while, you're still the same, huh? Two voices were heard one after another before several black-robed men immediately glided out of the grey restrictive shield's edge from 6 different directions. A sharp-browed old man and a purple-haired man whom the two voices belonged to were leading the group. Bai Tu and Li Qianji. So it's the two of you. The Scorpion King looked at both of them with grim-looking eyes. The sharp-browed old man's name was Bai Tu from the Divine Demon Sect, while the purple-haired man was Li Qianji from Life and Death Tower. Both of them were Grand Ultimate God experts which the Scorpion King had got acquainted with in the past. Other than the two, there were 40 over black-robed men with each of them projecting the aura of a Heaven Ultimate God. The terrifying lineup consisted of 2 Grand Ultimate Gods and over 40 Heaven Ultimate Gods. We're in big trouble. The Crimson Stone Fort's Heaven Ultimate Gods had already gathered together with a worried expression. Jin Yihang was trembling in fear and dare not stay in the void above. He instead quickly hid in a mining cave. On the other hand, the official army soldiers from Northern Darkstar territory were also gathered together. Your Excellency, what should we do? Kang Heng and the other commanders stood before Jian Wushuang. They're not friendly. Get all our brothers to stand in formations as we observe the situation, said Jian Wushuang. Aye. Kang Heng immediately got the official army to fall into formations. However, they only have 4 official army battalions which consisted of 4,000 men. Each battalion was barely capable of fighting against a high-level Earth Ultimate God at most, even when they were in formation. A Heaven Ultimate God sent by the Life and Death was enough to crush them. When did the Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower started to be in bed together? Scorpion King's face was frosty while staring at the two of them. Ha ha. Although Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower have minor disputes, we don't have a deep grudge against each other. What's wrong with us temporarily being together for some mutual benefits? The sharp-browed old man Bai Tu giggled. Scorpion King, we have to thank you this time for extracting all the blood gems from the mineral vein and saving us so much work. You're here for the blood gems as expected. Scorpion King was not at all surprised. Although he purposely prevented news from leaking out, Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon Sect have very strong intelligence gathering capabilities, so they might already catch wind of it since he did lead some Heaven Ultimate Gods to carry out the huge mining work. They might have previously just been quiet about it. The two top-tier powers waited until the blood gems extraction was completed and kept in an interspatial ring before taking action. You have 2 choices now, Scorpion King. First is to hand over all the blood gems you have gotten, then we'll let you and the Crimson Stone Fort experts go, while the second choice is that we'll directly get it ourselves and the blood gems will still be ours in the end, but all of you will die. Bai Tu's voice was cold. The famous Scorpion King. We heard you're only a slightly more talented disciple in the Sacred Palace when Crimson Stone Saint was still alive, and you're only loyal from being indebted to him. You've been beside Xianxia as her right-hand man ever since Crimson Stone Saint's death. You're the reason Xianxia can still somehow barely hold Crimson Stone Fort together despite it being on the brink of crumbling. I believe Xianxia will be heartbroken if you as her right-hand man die here today, sneered Li Qianji. Chapter 2643. Kill them all, the two of you want to kill me. A trace of disdain flashed in the Scorpion King's eyes. Although Bai Tu and Li Qianji were Grand Ultimate Gods, their strength was only average at most. Scorpion King could easily battle 2 such Grand Ultimate Gods without suffering a disadvantage. The 2 of us are certainly not enough, but what if she joins us? Li Qianji cracked a strange smile. A black-robed cultivator's aura suddenly rose to the Grand Ultimate God level and was even stronger than Bai Tu and Li Qianji from among the group of black-robed people. Long time no see, Scorpion King. An icy-cold voice came from a blue-haired woman who had a cold and desolate appearance. Gug. The Scorpion King's complexion finally changed. He did not care much when it was only by Tu and Li Qianji, but it was a different matter with the blue-haired Gug around. Although Gug was only a primary-level Grand Ultimate God, she was extremely strong among those of similar level and was not much weaker than the Scorpion King. Scorpion King had fought Gug many years ago and only gained a slight upper hand. Scorpion King, give the interspatial ring containing those blood gems in your hands to me, said the blue-haired Gug indifferently. Dream on. Scorpion King gave her a cold stare before he instantly became aggressive. Those blood gems were of great value and meant a lot for the Crimson Stone Fort. The pressure on Xianxia could be relieved quickly upon obtaining the blood gems. The Scorpion King would never hand over this batch of blood gems in vain for that reason alone. I can see that you won't accept the loss. We'll just have to kill first if that's the case, said Gug coldly. Go kill them. Spare no one. Li Qianji coldly said. The killing intent in those more than 40 heaven ultimate gods from Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower surged upon hearing her command. Kill. Kill them all. Ha ha. Divine Demon Sect, let's see who kills more. The earth-shattering screams and yelling resounded as more than 40 heaven ultimate gods attacked like hungry wolves. The Crimson Stone Fort had only sent a dozen heaven ultimate gods, which caused the combat power between both groups to be disproportionate. Crimson Stone Fort could only do their best to defend and resist the attacks. Oops. There's a big problem. The official army felt their scalps numbed upon seeing the combat powers of 40 heaven ultimate gods. They knew they were no match for those heaven ultimate gods. Retreat. Retreat. Get back to the edge. Jian Wushuang immediately ordered. The official army retreated without any hesitation. They never wanted to participate in the war, and neither was there any need for them to do so. The Divine Demon Sect and the Life and Death Tower were not targeting them after all. However, the combat power between both groups was disproportionate when the battle began, with many heaven ultimate gods from Divine Demon Sect and the Life and Death Tower had no opponents, so they started targeting the official army. Official army? Humph, they must have secretly gained a lot of benefits from guarding this area for so long and probably also have a lot of blood gems on them. Let's kill them too. Kill them all. Several heaven ultimate gods immediately chased after the official army. Damn it! Kang Heng and the other commanders panicked when they saw that. Quick! Get into formation and block their attacks. Kang Heng let out a stern cry as 4 official army commanders took action together while they continued to retreat. 4 gushes of powers erupted, but each of those powers only reached the level of a high-level Earth Ultimate God. Such power level was simply a joke in the eyes of Heaven Ultimate gods. Funny. One of the Heaven Ultimate gods sneered and instantly routed the 4 powers with just a hand wave. There was a terrifying power acting on the 4 army formations at the same time. Although the impact received by the 4 army formations was equally shared, every soldier in the 4,000 troops, including the 4 commanders, grunted upon being hit by the impact. Some of them, with weaker physical protective abilities, had traces of blood dripping from the corners of their mouths. They're just like ants. Kill them all. The more than 3 meters tall burly old man stretched out his palm and gathered a surge of divine power in the void before him. A huge dark cloud was formed and covered a large number of soldiers below in the blink of an eye. The terrifying power contained in the dark cloud frightened every soldier, and commander caused them to fall into despair. That kind of power was not something they could resist using their military formation. In the nick of time. Boom! A huge black awl pierced through the void and with its terrifying power and instantly bombarded the dark cloud. The dark cloud, which was completely formed using divine power, obviously could not withstand the attack's impact before it collapsed and dissipated. What? The burly old man was surprised and immediately looked at the void next to him. There was a golden-robed young man with a long sword standing in the void, coldly staring back at him. An Earth Ultimate God. The burly old man frowned. An Earth Ultimate God blocked the blow he had just released. Territorial Lord. It's the Territorial Lord. The Territorial Lord has taken action. The official army soldiers were very pleasantly surprised. What are you doing? Why aren't you standing back? Jian Wushuang rebuked in a low voice. Yes, yes. The official army knew what Jian Wushuang meant and retreated to the battlefield's edge under the guidance of several commanders such as Kang Heng. The burly old man, along with another 2 heaven ultimate gods who attempted to attack the official army earlier, did not chase after them but gathered together. The 3 stood side by side while looking at Jian Wushuang with interest. Territorial Lord. You're the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord, right? You're just a peak Earth ultimate god, but you can parry off and defeat the attack of a heaven ultimate god. How interesting. He was displaying a sword formation, right? The transmigration power in the formation was so strong. I heard that someone bought the transmigration sword formation manual created by the sword lord Tong Xin with 40 million primordial stones in an auction held by the Star Picking Pavilion not long ago. It seems that person was the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. An Earth ultimate god who managed to become a Territorial Lord and have 40 million primordial stones. He must be rich. He must have also gained a lot of benefits from the blood gem mineral vein in his Northern Darkstar territory. I'm afraid that his current net worth is much more than any of us heaven ultimate god. Won't his wealth be ours after we kill him? The 3 heaven ultimate gods grinned at each other. Chapter 2644. 3 Great Heaven Ultimate Gods, 3 Great Heaven Ultimate Gods. Fortunately, they are only primary level heaven ultimate gods. Jian Wushuang's face sank upon looking at the 3 great heaven ultimate gods in front of him but remained fearless. He was just a peak ultimate god 7 years ago, yet able to kill Yuan Lei, a powerful heaven ultimate god who was good at the vitality law. His strength had improved by leaps and bounds compared to 7 years ago. He made a breakthrough from the peak ultimate god realm to the primary level earth ultimate god. His understanding of laws and sword principles had also improved a lot, so did his divine power. 3 great heaven ultimate gods were not enough to frighten him. Jian Wushuang gave them a death stare as majestic golden divine power gathered behind him. A 5,000 feet high golden god shadow which exuded a world-shocking magnificent aura emerged in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang also used the divine god of punishment when he fought Qing Zi 5 years ago. However, his gold god shadow was only 3,000 feet at that time. The additional 2,000 feet, which increased his golden god shadow to 5,000 feet, gave him an additional power boost. The 7 stars strength in his body came pouring out. The aura in his body also crazily shot up at a terrifying speed. His initial peak Earth ultimate god's divine power disguise under the Black Stone's influence climbed rapidly and reached the very limits of peak Earth ultimate god in the blink of an eye. It had exceeded the Earth ultimate god's range. Heaven ultimate god. Jian Wushuang's divine power breath had been elevated to the heaven ultimate god level. This kid is weird. How come? He must have performed some kind of secret technique that raised his cultivation realm. The 3 great heaven ultimate gods stood surprised side by side upon seeing Jian Wushuang's divine power breath climbing up to the level of a heaven ultimate god. The 3 of us should take action together, and whoever grabbed his interspatial ring first gets it, suggested the 3-yard-tall burly old man. All right. No problem. The other 2 nodded in agreement. The 3 great heaven ultimate gods suddenly took a shot at the same time. Boom! 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 3 shots of terrifying divine power breath erupted from the trio. The burly old man among the 3, who was originally only 3 yards tall, soared to 10 yards as his divine body rapidly grew while wielding a huge 5 to 6 yards long golden stone staff with the width of a huge bucket. The staff was continuously erupting majestic divine power while being held in the burly old man's hands. The second bald young man, heaven ultimate god, was holding a purple sickle which seemed bewitching like his divine power breath. The last heaven ultimate god was a handsome cold-looking man who had a sword mark on his brow and wielded a blood sword. Kill! The 3 heaven ultimate gods concurrently attacked. 3 magnificent divine power breaths headed straight at Jian Wushuang. War! Jian Wushuang made a powerful cry of command, and the 9 infernal crimson divine swords floating beside him instantly combined to form the perfect transmigration sword formation. A huge black divine sword pierced through the void and shot out. Ha ha, I'll handle this sword formation. The bald young men laughed before slicing down the purple sickle in his hand like a purple moon colliding against the black divine sword coming through the void. Clang! The purple moon disappeared after the crisp sound. The black divine sword shook slightly before being thrown backward, but soon it stopped and continued moving forward. Interesting. There was a strange luster in the bald young man's eyes as he went forth again to confront the transmigration sword formation. The handsome man with a sword mark on his eyebrows also took action at the same time. Hum! A large number of apparitions emerged at the same time. The handsome man learned spacetime law and seemed quite accomplished with the appearance of more than 300 apparitions. More than 300 apparitions were densely packed together such that Jian Wushuang could not tell which was the handsome man's real body. A breath of cold aura shot past. Right here. Jian Wushuang immediately turned his head and discovered the handsome man had appeared beside him. The blood sword in his hand drove a bloody sword shadow that was coming down toward Jian Wushuang's throat from a special angle in the void. He aimed to cut off Jian Wushuang's head. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and unsheathed his blood mountain sword from its sheath. Wow! Jian Wushuang's sword skill was much faster than the handsome man's, as a large number of sword shadows were sent out immediately like a sword river that completely drowned the handsome man after warding off his sword attack. Let's see who has better sword skills. A smile crept at the corner of the handsome man's mouth. Endless bloodlight completely turned the void around him into a sea of blood in the next second. The handsome man's appearance was similar to a death god bathed in the sea of blood. The huge, oppressive, profound level sword world suddenly shocked Jian Wushuang. The handsome man then performed a strange, cold, and amazingly fast sword technique that manifested in the sea of blood. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang seems fearless and displayed the full potential of his sword world. Although it was only at merit level, his full-strength sword world performance had forced the handsome man's sword world to recede while Jian Wushuang wielded his blood mountain sword at the same time. If the handsome man's sword technique was strange and cold like a dark assassin, Jian Wushuang's sword technique was swift and tyrannical like a domineering sword king. The two were frantically firing attacks at each other, each with his advantages, while unable to threaten either side. Suddenly, go away! Someone shouted fiercely before the burly old man, who soared to a height of 10 yards, lifted his huge golden stone staff that was packed with terrifying power. The golden stone staff was like a huge golden sun as it fiercely slammed right down Jian Wushuang. The handsome man was aware of it much earlier and managed to move aside. However, Jian Wushuang, who was oppressed by the golden stone staff, found himself immobilized. Jian Wushuang scowled as his blood mountain sword silently attacked, causing the world and space-time to seemingly completely overlap. A weird and extremely powerful sword shadow imperceptibly fleeted past. Space-time sword technique, 6th form overlapping shadow. Chapter 2645. Crisis. A loud twang resounded. The tall old man's golden stone staff had great momentum from its heavy mass and the long charging swinging period. Although Jian Wushuang's overlapping shadow's first form was extremely powerful, it was considered a space-time sword technique which emphasized speed greatly and was naturally at a disadvantage from the energy perspective. Jian Wushuang's body sunk after the clash as an immense force was passed through his hands onto his divine body, but was easily blocked by his physical protective capabilities. The Northern Dark Star Territorial Lord is truly something. The three Heaven Ultimate Gods frowned from that simple challenge. Although the fight was 3-on-1, they only gained a very slight upper hand. Looks like Heaven Ultimate Gods aren't all that, scoffed Jian Wushuang. What did he just say? Kill him. The three Heaven Ultimate Gods were incredibly angered and no longer held back and unleashed their full abilities. Although Jian Wushuang was facing 3 opponents at once, he could take care of the bald young man by controlling his transmigration sword formation by rearranging and disassembling it time and again with great finesse. As for the other two, he could deal with them head-to-head using his understanding of sword skills and space-time law. Even though he was slightly disadvantaged during the fight, his physical protective capabilities did not allow the three Heaven Ultimate Gods to even injure him, hence they could do nothing to him. This kid. How can we not even touch him with 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods working together? This little Northern Darkstar territory has such a genius. The 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods were incredibly stunned and angered, but there was nothing they could do about Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang could fend off their attacks, his people were greatly disadvantaged in the remaining battlefield areas. Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower sent out more than 40 Heaven Ultimate Gods, but Crimson Stone Fort had only a dozen of them, which was a quarter of their opponent's force. Every Crimson Stone Fort Heaven Ultimate God had to fight against 3 or 4 experts of the same level. How could that be possible? Only in a short moment, the Crimson Stone Fort was almost completely defeated with 1/3 of their Heaven Ultimate Gods slaughtered. The rest of them were barely hanging in there, and perhaps it would not be long before all of them died there. Jian Wushuang squinted slightly. During his battle against the 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods, he had taken in everything that was happening on the battlefield while planning for his next step. Crimson Stone Fort's faction was in an absolute crisis without a doubt. Meanwhile, his official army and himself at that moment were considered on the same side as Crimson Stone Fort, which placed them in a really dangerous position. Jian Wushuang thought to himself, the difference between both sides is really too large, making it impossible to fight head-to-head. The most probable move right now is to break open the surrounding magic formation and escape. However, the Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower seemed to be well prepared, with the magic formation they had set up way beforehand being extremely sturdy. Jian Wushuang could tell at a glance that it was not something Heaven Ultimate Gods could break open, and neither could himself, of course. The only person on Crimson Stone Fort's side who might be capable of breaking the magic formation and giving them a chance to live was the Scorpion King. However, the Scorpion King was also in a non-favorable situation. He was then fighting against 3 Grand Ultimate Gods from Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower. Among the 3 Grand Ultimate Gods, Bai Tu and Li Qianji were considered slightly easier to deal with, but Ji was incredibly overpowering and placed immense pressure on him. The Scorpion King was already using his masterstroke 9 asteroids. The 9 gigantic asteroids appeared between heaven and earth as they lashed out under the Scorpion King's control. Each of them had terrifying energy, but he was still badly suppressed as it was an unfair battle of 3 versus 1 after all. Damn it! The Scorpion King shouted non-stop with his bloodshot eyes. He could also see what was happening on the surrounding battlefield and understood the situation they were in. Ha ha, Scorpion King. You don't have to go through all this if you just pass over the blood gems earlier, right? However, you just can't help but act tough, and now you can't keep the blood gems on top of having to die here as well, sneered Li Qianji. I still won't let you have it easy even if I have to die. Scorpion King shouted sternly and furiously. He flipped his giant hand and took out a foul-smelling blood-red pill while looking at it with a crazed expression in his eyes before swallowing the pill without hesitation. The Scorpion King's already overpowering and abnormal divine power aura shot even higher as the pill went down. In just a split second, it had shot up to a level close to a high-level Grand Ultimate God. Is that the Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pill? Ji's face turned grim. Ha ha, looks like he's going crazy. Li Qianji's grin became wider. The Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pill was a kind of pill that could greatly increase one's abilities in a short period. However, the pill's side effects were horrifically strong, such that it would greatly affect one's foundation and cultivation. Although the Scorpion King would not die after consuming it, his cultivation would likely drop from primary level Grand Ultimate God to Heaven Ultimate God. It would take a very long recultivation period to return to his previous level. Therefore, nobody would dare take the pill under normal circumstances. However, it was apparent that the Scorpion King had no other option but to take the pill as his last resort. Boom boom boom, a terrifying aura that was twice what it previously was suddenly burst out as the Scorpion King's face looked horrifying like a fierce beast. The 9 asteroids he was controlling immediately surged in energy and lashed out in a frenzy. Careful! Ji warned. Although Bai Tu and Li Qianji's expressions were still ridiculing the Scorpion King, they were not being careless at all and stepped backward. They dared not touch the asteroids attacking them. Even Ji had retreated under the Scorpion King's terrifying battle strength. The Scorpion King did not go after them after making the 3 retreated. He instead turned around and jumped against the grey magic formation that shrouded the entire void. No! Does he want to destroy the magic formation? Ji and the other 2 were shocked. Although the Scorpion King looked insane with nothing to lose, he was extremely calm in his mind and knew that continuous fighting would cost everyone their life. Therefore, he decided to rely on the Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pill's effect to crush the magic formation. Break it open! The Scorpion King hysterically commanded the 9 asteroids as 3 of them suddenly grew bigger dramatically before crashing against the grey magic formation. Chapter 2646. I'll help you Boom. The giant grey magic formation began to tremble violently upon being bombarded by the 3 black asteroids as though it was about to collapse. However, it only lasted for a short while before matters began to die down again. What? The Scorpion King's face turned pale upon looking at the unscathed grey magic formation, showing his desperation. He had done his best by performing his most powerful technique and even swallowed the Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pill. However, he still could not break the magic formation in the end. The people from Crimson Stone fought even Jian Wushuang and his official army would have no hope to escape upon his failure. Ha ha, that scared me a little. Good thing the magic formation isn't broken. Otherwise, he could have run off. Li Qianji immediately laughed maniacally. He failed just by a tiny margin. If his offensive energy was a little stronger, like 10 or 20%, he could have perhaps broken the magic formation. It's too bad the Scorpion King has shown us his very limits with no possibility for his energy to further increase, sneered Gug. The Scorpion King and all those Crimson Stone Fort disciples can't escape with the magic formation still here. They must all die. Bai Tu's voice resonated arrogantly. The Scorpion King and the surviving Crimson Stone Fort's Heaven Ultimate Gods fell silent upon hearing his words. Their faces had betrayed them and shown their hopelessness. The hopelessness filled their hearts such that they even lost their motivation to fend off attacks from their enemies. However, Jian Wushuang was not excluded in their hopeless feeling group. Not only did Jian Wushuang not feel hopeless, but his eyes were also shining with a sharp light. On the contrary, he saw an opportunity to survive. Lord Scorpion King, your strike just now had indeed shaken the magic formation such that I can even feel it was about to collapse and barely blocked the offense in the end. Your attack energy would have completely crushed the magic formation with a slight increase in power. As for the energy, the sharp light within Jian Wushuang's eyes became brighter and brighter. He had decided in his mind. Stop struggling since you can't escape anyways, kid. That's right, just be good and let us take you. Mr. Bai Tu from the Divine Demon Sect may let you live because of your pretty remarkable talents if you pass your interspatial ring to us. He. However, death will be your end if you keep struggling. The 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods who surrounded Jian Wushuang were laughing presumptuously. Although they could not touch Jian Wushuang at that moment, other Heaven Ultimate Gods, high-level Grand Ultimate Gods, and even Peak Grand Ultimate Gods would soon arrive without them needing to do much on their part. Jian Wushuang would surely die when that happens. However, Jian Wushuang sneered as well right at that moment as on his body. Ring. A flash of golden light suddenly surged from the golden robe he was wearing, which was none other than the golden glass armor. The golden-colored armor covered his entire body's surface within only a second. 9 Sparkle Stars Armor, one of the 5 secret skills from 7 Stars Black Secret, raised Jian Wushuang's overall abilities by 3 folds. Scram! A humongous sword essence swept violently in every direction as Jian Wushuang fiercely shouted. The 3 Heaven Ultimate Gods around him were at a standstill just moments ago. However, the trio was immediately thrown backward following his ability's drastic increment under the terrifying crisscrossing sword shadows. Jian Wushuang's figure moved in a flash and left the 3-way behind before dashing rapidly toward the void ahead. 15 kilometers tall golden god shadow was formed behind him, which also had golden armor shrouding its body. Jian Wushuang's aura shot up to the heavens as he dashed toward the Scorpion King's direction. Although he attracted some people's attention, none cared too much as Jian Wushuang was only an Earth Ultimate God after all. Even if his battle strength was comparable to a Heaven Ultimate God's, he should not be able to affect the Scorpion King and those Grand Ultimate Gods' battle. All of them thought so except for Jian Wushuang himself. Jian Wushuang squinted at that moment and suddenly gave out a loud cry. Lord Scorpion King, bombard the magic formation once more. I'll give my all to help you break it open this time. His loud cry resonated everywhere. The many Heaven Ultimate Gods who were fighting intensely on the battlefield and the official army soldiers could all hear it loud and clear. The Scorpion King, Gug, Bai Tu, and Li Xianxia, the 4 grand ultimate gods who were fighting intensely, could naturally hear him and were all shocked. What did they just hear? An Earth ultimate god dashing at them in such an epic fashion while announcing that he would help the Scorpion King to break open the magic formation? The Scorpion King had tried his hands on the magic formation, but could not break it open even upon performing his most powerful strike under the Holy Witch Mantra magic pill's effect. What could an Earth ultimate god come up with? Jian Yi. The Scorpion King gazed at Jian Wushuang with a frown. All the others looked in Jian Wushuang's direction with nothing but confusion in their eyes. However, Jian Wushuang had no time to clarify those people's doubts as he waved his hand while he dashed forward without explaining anything. A light beam then blended into the surrounding void. Heaven and earth suddenly started changing. An extremely beautiful scroll painting unfolded in mid-air above the infinite cosmos. The world within the painting looked so real, with mountains, rivers, and even the 9 continents. It was so vivid. A grand boundless ancient aura began to expand downward from the painting world. What's that? A treasure. Such a unique treasure. Everything in the scroll painting looks so real. All those experts gazed at the painting world above and became momentarily lost in thought. However, Jian Wushuang sneered. 1,000 treasures, grand world, transmigration world. Boom, the surrounding heaven and earth began to change. This place was originally above the mountains. Even though it was nighttime, immense sweeping divine powers were lighting up heaven and earth from below like lamps and bonfires. However, heaven and earth descended into infinite darkness in the blink of an eye and created boundless darkness without a single glimmer of light. Multiple reincarnation passages appeared in mid-air within the darkness. The reincarnation passages were scattered in various corners of the world as infinite samsara strength also ruthlessly expanded. It was a transmigration world filled with samsara strength. In that world, experts who studied transmigration law could have their battle strength increased immensely. The Scorpion King was of course someone who had also studied the transmigration law. Chapter 2647. Escape. The boundless samsara strength filled every corner of that world. The Scorpion King was the first person who could sense it, as he was also specialized in transmigration law. Such surge in samsara strength, this world is simply born of it. Scorpion King was completely stunned. My attack. The Scorpion King maneuvered the dark asteroid closest to him and directly lashed out at Li Xianxia. Regardless of size or momentum, the dark asteroid was a level higher than before with an even faster speed. Li Xianxia defended himself with all his might when it appeared before him. However, bang! A loud noise. What? Li Xianxia was shocked. He felt a surge of terrifying energy moving toward him. Although it could not kill him, it made his divine body tremble violently as a gulp of blood gushed out from his mouth. He humphed coldly before immediately jumping out. The energy of my strike is 50% higher than before. The Scorpion King was completely shocked and immediately felt ecstatic after that. On the other hand, the experts from Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower, including Bai Tu and Gug, were incredibly stunned and angry. All of them had witnessed the Scorpion King being incapable of breaking down the magic formation around him by only relying on his abilities even after swallowing the Holy Witch Mantra magic pill. However, his abilities drastically and suddenly increased after the dark transmigration world appeared. The transmigration world was unleashed by the Earth Ultimate God Jian Wushuang. This kid. He's only an Earth Ultimate God territorial lord. How could he unleash such an incredible technique? World transformation. This technique is unearthly. Many experts gasped at its marvel. However, they did not know that the transmigration world was just one of the 1,000 treasures grand worlds. 1,000 treasures grand world, which meant to create the most suitable world for one to fight in accordance to one's strength and absolute geographical advantage. Jian Wushuang specialized in space-time law, transmigration law, and sword principle. Therefore, creating the space-time, transmigration, and sword principle worlds using the 1,000 treasures grand worlds would greatly increase his abilities. However, such increments did not only help him but also everyone. Adapting to local conditions. Experts who studied transmigration law would all become a lot stronger in the transmigration world. Sword practitioners, on the other hand, would receive incredible upgrades in the sword world. It was as such. Jian Wushuang knew the moment the transmigration world was unleashed it would help increase the Scorpion King's overall abilities by 50%, hence he took action without hesitation. Lord Scorpion King, please do it right now, Jian Wushuang shouted. The Scorpion King snapped out of his shocked feeling upon hearing Jian Wushuang's words. His sturdy divine power aura began to immediately surge without any hesitation. He once again appeared at the grey magic formation's edge while maneuvering 3 asteroids. The asteroids were incredibly huge with powerful momentum. At that moment, boom boom, the 3 asteroids suddenly landed on the grey magic formation. It was the same move with the Scorpion King previously used with all his might. Although it had initially shaken the grey magic formation, it finally stopped the attack. However, the Scorpion King unleashed his move once again under the Transmigration World's influence, which drastically increased the 3 asteroids' momentum by 50%. It seemed to have gone beyond what the grey magic formation could endure after multiple consecutive bombardments. Bang! A huge rumble resonated as a gigantic hole was immediately formed on the grey magic formation at the spot where the 3 asteroids bombarded. No! Gug, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji's expressions changed. The magic formation was a whole entity by itself as a huge amount of grey energy started dissipating at high speeds the moment one side was breached and caused the entire grey magic formation to collapse in the blink of an eye. The grey magic formation had disappeared. That sight made the surviving Crimson Stone Fort Heaven Ultimate Gods and the many official army soldiers happy beyond words. They were trapped within the grey magic formation and waiting to be slaughtered just moments ago. Run! Run! Split up and escape. The Heaven Ultimate Gods from Crimson Stone Fort and Northern Darkstar Territory's official army did not hesitate as they began to escape toward various directions in a split second. Threads of light suddenly started moving toward every direction. Those Heaven Ultimate Gods' great personal strength was shown when they escaped at full speed. The official army's capabilities were also expected. Although their escape tactics were nothing to shout about when compared with Heaven Ultimate Gods, their numbers were huge. Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower had only over 40 Heaven Ultimate Gods and simply could not afford to worry about the fleeing official army. The Divine Demon Sect and Life and Death Tower's Heaven Ultimate Gods were embarrassed as they could only chase after the few Crimson Stone Fort's Heaven Ultimate Gods. However, it was not easy to catch them. On the other hand, the Scorpion King raised his head and laughed after the magic formation was broken. He then glided into the surrounding void at full speed just like everybody else. Scorpion King, don't even dream of escaping. Gug's blue hair was floating in the air as an immense divine power aura swept out of her body as she squealed with her fierce face and blood-red eyes as though blood was about to stream out of them. Blue light threads then shot out like venomous snakes. The tough and incredibly fast blue light threads shrouded Scorpion King inside and blocked his escape within only a short moment. Bai Tu and Li Qianji quickly performed their hidden techniques by sacrificing quite a bit of energy to help Gug block the Scorpion King's escape route. So what if you've broken open the magic formation? You and your interspatial ring are our real target. It's our gain so long we kill you and take the ring, shouted Gug. Both Bai Tu and Li Qianji understood that logic as well, hence they did their best to stop the Scorpion King. The Scorpion King used the 9 asteroids to attack fiercely time and again completely unleashing his strongest battle strength. However, he only managed to break out of their restriction. The Holy Witch Mantra Magic Pills effect is about to be over. Scorpion King's eyes turned frosty. Its side effects would kick in immediately as soon as the pills effect was over. His abilities would decrease sharply, making it impossible to run away from those 3 grand ultimate gods at that time. Jian Yi. The Scorpion King growled decisively before waving his hand and lashing out a black thread of light at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang subconsciously grabbed it only to find a black color interspatial ring the moment he opened his palm. Jian Wushuang shuddered as his mind raced and realized what was happening. Chapter 2648. Furious. This is... Jian Wushuang looked into the interspatial ring in his hand and saw a large number of blood gems piled up like a mountain. The naked eye rough estimation amounted to around a few billion catties. There was no doubt the interspatial ring was used to store those blood gems. The 3,700,000,000 catties of blood gems from the mineral vein, which amount to the wealth of 37 billion primordial stones, were all in this interspatial ring. Xianxia, give it to the fort master. The Scorpion King roared while relying on his last bit of the medicinal effect to try his best and stop those three grand ultimate gods Gug, by 2, and Li Qianji. Those three grand ultimate gods realized what the Scorpion King had given to Jian Wushuang. Quick! Stop him! Kill that kid and take back the interspatial ring in his hand. Hurry up! Those three grand ultimate gods screamed as they were being held down by the Scorpion King and could not free their hands, but the Heaven ultimate gods from Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon Sect had the freedom to attack. More than a dozen Heaven ultimate gods in the void near Jian Wushuang gave up on chasing and killing the Crimson Stone Fort group before going straight at Jian Wushuang instead after hearing the three struggling grand ultimate gods' command. Jian Wushuang had a determined look on his face. He cast a deep look at Scorpion King after making a decision. Run! Jian Wushuang was moving at his top speed as he tried his best to skim forward. However, the Heaven ultimate gods from Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon Sect were right behind him. Jian Wushuang had to do something. Boom! A majestic gush of divine power like a volcano that had been dormant for hundreds of millions of years erupted from Jian Wushuang. It was just way too much. The divine power discharged by Jian Wushuang was beyond what many Heaven ultimate gods could have imagined. A pure divine power eruption. He had used this trick when he first encountered the Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor in the Dark Thunder territory. Their gap was astonishingly huge as he was only a second-class divine demon at that time while the Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor was a peak divine demon. However, Jian Wushuang had only used around 30% of his divine power, which was sufficiently terrifying to forcibly block Infernal Heart Prefecture Governor away for a long time before managing a complete retreat. The divine power he possessed was countless times greater than before after reaching Earth Ultimate God Realm. He was also discharged more than 30% of his divine power. It was 50%. How much exactly was 50% of the vast and incredible amount of divine power? A divine power ocean. A huge and boundless divine power ocean instantly formed. There seemed to be no end to the divine power ocean. Divine power tidal waves at a few hundred feet to even a few thousand feet high frantically swept around. The Heaven ultimate gods who came from every direction to attack Jian Wushuang were instantly crushed and drowned by the divine power ocean. How's this possible? How can his divine power be so much? Unbelievable. What a spectacular divine power. Those Heaven ultimate gods were shocked by the pure divine power's impact. Although the power driven by that divine power was not too intense and it did not pose much threat to them, they still had to resist with all their strength and were busy dispersing it without any time to worry about Jian Wushuang. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang concurrently produced a few hundred apparitions at the same time before displaying his scary full speed. In just a matter of seconds, he had shuttled out of those Heaven-Earth ultimate gods' besiege and left the battlefield. Scorpion King, farewell. Jian Wushuang left a message as he quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. The divine power ocean slowly faded away after he left. The world was returned to its original state as the transmigration world that spread throughout the battlefield had also disappeared. Garbage. A bunch of garbage. The three grand ultimate gods Gug, by 2, and Li Qianji were furious. On the other hand, the Scorpion King was grinning as he saw what Jian Wushuang had done. His cultivation speed is extremely fast as he had made a breakthrough from Primary Level Ultimate God Realm to Peak Earth Ultimate God Realm in just 20 years. His combat power is also strong enough to allow him to simultaneously contend against three grand ultimate gods without being defeated. The techniques he has used Transmigration World and the surging divine power he instantly discharged were shocking. He's extremely talented and powerful with great techniques with unfathomable potentials. No wonder the old master appreciated him. Haha. He'll definitely help the fort master to resolve this deadlock and I won't have any regrets even if I die. The Scorpion King smiled with shining bright eyes. The medicinal effect in his body had completely dissipated and replaced by a serious side effect. His divine power began to quickly fade away as well. Scorpion King, go to hell. The three grand ultimate gods Gug, by 2, and Xianxia did not show the Scorpion King any mercy and killed the weakened Scorpion King who was incapable to resist without hesitation. The battlefield gradually calmed down after the Scorpion King died. Crimson Stone Fort had sent more than a dozen Heaven Ultimate Gods. 8 of them had died and left their bodies behind, with only a few managed to escape. Some of the official army soldiers had also died during the battle, but most of them managed to escape, with the main reason being the official army had a very large number despite being relatively weak. Those Heaven Ultimate Gods from Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon Sect did not bother to chase after them when they scattered and fled. What they cared about most was Jian Wushuang. He had escaped under their noses. He escaped from 3 Grand Ultimate Gods and more than a dozen Heaven Ultimate Gods. Not only did he escape, but had also taken away the interspatial ring storing the blood gems. The Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon Sect were originally here for the interspatial ring. Although they killed the Scorpion King, they did not get the interspatial ring. Damn it! Damn it! Gug, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji stood side by side with extremely gloomy expressions. We had a seamless plan. I thought the Scorpion King would die with none of the Crimson Stone Fort's people able to escape. I also thought we'd definitely get the interspatial ring, but a petty Earth Ultimate God actually disrupted our plan. Gug held her hands tightly. They had investigated each Heaven Ultimate Gods in Crimson Stone Fort present to ensure that the plan would go smoothly before carrying out their plan. They had only done so for the Heaven Ultimate Gods and had left out the Earth Ultimate Gods. Earth Ultimate Gods were just like ants to them after all. What impact could they have in the battle? Chapter 2649. Escape. Those 3 Grand Ultimate Gods were surprised that an Earth Ultimate God who they had not cared for before ruined their plan. The Earth Ultimate God displayed the Transmigration World, which allowed the Scorpion King to destroy the formation. The most devastating part was the Earth Ultimate God ended up taking the interspatial ring containing the blood gems away, and they could not even chase after him. After a while, "Forgive me. Master, please forgive me." A purple-robed man fearfully knelt while begging for mercy. This person was Jin Yihang. He was afraid of being involved when the war broke out, so he found a mineshaft and hid in it. In the end, he was discovered and brought to face the 3 Grand Ultimate Gods. This person is also from Crimson Stone Fort. Bai Tu glanced at Jin Yihang and said with his indifferent voice, "Yes, Master. He's an inspector from Crimson Stone Fort according to him and is related with Jin Yang, one of the faction leaders in Crimson Stone Fort," replied a Heaven Ultimate God respectfully. "Oh, Jin Yang's man." Bai Tu raised his brows and glanced at Jin Yihang again before smiling strangely. Jin Yang was a famous and powerful man in the Crimson Stone Fort as a high-level Grand Ultimate God, much stronger than the Scorpion King or any of them present. They would have to show Jin Yang some respect if they ever met. Jin Yihang was a joke in comparison. "Answer me, who's Jian Yi? Is he also from Crimson Stone Fort?" Bai Tu asked in a cold voice. "Jian Yi." Jin Yihang was stunned but immediately shook his head. He's not from Crimson Stone Fort, but the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. His official army was guarding the mining sites as those blood gems had appeared within his territory. Territorial Lord. Bai Tu and the other 2 Grand Ultimate Gods exchanged looks. They thought Jian Yi was some super genius from the Sacred Palace. Unexpectedly, Jian Yi was just a Territorial Lord. How could a Territorial Lord be so capable? Although Jian Yi is only a Territorial Lord, he's extremely talented. He was just a peak Ultimate God when I first saw him many years ago, who then defeated me as a peak Earth Ultimate God in the end. He became a peak Earth Ultimate God 5 years ago and fought evenly against a Heaven Ultimate God from Crimson Stone Fort called Xianxia at one instance before the Scorpion King had to step in. I'm unsure the reason, but Scorpion King had personally shown Jian Yi his Masterstroke 9 asteroids, said Jin Yihang. He spilled all the beans. A peak Ultimate God who defeated a high-level Earth Ultimate God and was appreciated by the Scorpion King to the point he showed Jian Yi his Masterstroke. Gug, Bai Tu, and Li Qianji looked at each other with solemn expressions. I can be sure that Jian Yi is indeed a genius. They must have been in contact since the Scorpion King showed his Masterstroke to Jian Yi. The Scorpion King might have even persuaded him to join the Sacred Palace. The The Scorpion King didn't hesitate to hand the interspatial ring to Xianxia right before his death and had great confidence in him. Xianxia will find a way to return it to the Crimson Stone Fort since the interspatial ring has fallen into his hands. He'll most probably hand the ring over to the new fort master, Xianxia, said Gug coldly. We should never let him return to Crimson Stone Fort. Baitu bellowed in a low voice. Hunt him down. Do everything possible to find, kill, and retrieve the interspatial ring from him. Li Qianji was full of murderous intent. Do you know Xianxia's specific origin, or who are his associates? Gug asked. Jin Yihang honestly answered their every question. It did not take long for many experts from the Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect to be sent out. The first place they went was the Territorial Lord Mansion in northern Darkstar territory. A few days later, Jian Wushuang kept his aura undetected while hiding in a cave which he cracked open in the depths of a dense forest at an unknown distance from the Blood Gem's mineral vein. He was holding up a message token in his hand. Shina, are you all right? Jian Wushuang asked. I'm okay. Xiao Taishin immediately replied to the message. I left the Territorial Lord's mansion and then disguised myself to leave the northern Darkstar territory as soon as I received your message. There were a large number of experts who appeared in the void above the Territorial Lord's mansion not long after I left. There were only a few maids left in the mansion, so the experts could not get anything and left shortly. Well, where's the official army? Jian Wushuang asked. I've contacted Commander Kang Heng and received news that we didn't lose many people in the army. They have currently been divided into several small groups and are resting in some deserted areas without rushing to return to their camps, said Xiao Taishin. That's good. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. The Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect are on the lookout for me. I won't return to the northern Darkstar territory for the time being. The official army isn't a threat, so they should be able to return to their camps after those experts from Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect leave. However, those experts will try to get you and use you as a threat for me to show up since you're the person closest to me. You don't have to go back to northern Darkstar territory for now. On the contrary, you shouldn't show up anywhere for the time being and have to disappear. Do you understand? Jian Wushuang asked. Understood. Xiao Taishin knew what to do. Master, you don't have to worry about me. I'm just a maid after all. The Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect won't care too much about me. Master, you have to be very careful. I know. I plan to temporarily leave the northern Darkstar territory and will only be back when I can confidently face the Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect. Jian Wushuang smiled. Jian Wushuang cut off the transmission after explaining to Xiao Taishin before sighing in the cave. I thought my northern Darkstar territory could finally get some peace once the Blood Gems mining was completed. I can then continue to improve my strength the moment Crimson Stone Fort had taken all of those blood vems and left. Who would have thought there will be such a big change? Jian Wushuang shook his head and sighed. The change had not only affected the Crimson Stone Fort, but also Jian Wushuang and his official army. He had no choice but to find a way out for himself. In the end, he managed to escape but also ran into big trouble. The experts from Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect had seen the Scorpion King handing over the interspatial ring containing all the blood gems to Jian Wushuang. Would they let him off so easily? Scorpion King. Jian Wushuang mumbled softly. Jian Wushuang had a good impression of the Scorpion King. Chapter 2650. 100 million bounty on his head. The Scorpion King happily handed him the 15 divine elixir pill as promised by Crimson Stone Fort when Jian Wushuang first met him. The Scorpion King had also extended an invitation for Jian Wushuang to join the Sacred Palace after noticing Jian Wushuang's great talents. He tried his best to help Jian Wushuang after learning that Jian Wushuang was the person chosen by the Crimson Stone Saint and even gave Jian Wushuang 50 divine elixir pill before also showing Jian Wushuang his masterstroke. Those 50 divine elixir pill and his masterstroke close-up demonstration were helpful to Jian Wushuang and he was grateful. Unfortunately, he was helpless at that moment. He could perhaps save the Scorpion King's life if he unscrupulously used his life rating pressure on those opponents. However, Jian Wushuang knew he could not perform the life rating pressure again. He knew the Scorpion King would be killed after he escaped, so he could only lament the Scorpion King's death. The least he could do was to hand over the interspatial ring with blood gems to the Crimson Stone Fort Master, Xianxia. Now that everyone knows the interspatial ring is in my hands, the Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect will come after me. Nanwu Palace and Dongfang clan may have also gotten the news and started looking for me. As for the Crimson Stone Fort, I bet they won't be as indifferent and also began looking for me. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed slightly. The Crimson Stone Fort had too many factions which were constantly in fierce battles against each other. He had no idea how many factions there were altogether and which of them supported Xianxia. Under such circumstances, he would not hand over the interspatial ring to the expert or go with that person even if a Crimson Stone Fort's expert found him. Therefore, Jian Wushuang could only think of a way to arrive at the Crimson Stone Fort's lair by himself and meet Xianxia in person to hand over the interspatial ring. It seems I'll need an escape master plan, murmured Jian Wushuang before he soon left. Half a month later, at Longyu City. Longyu City was an extremely unique giant city in the northern Darkstar territory which did not belong to any wilderness, or in other words, the city that was equivalent to a wilderness itself. In the northern Darkstar territory, many spatial passages could be used for spatial transmission, but most of those spatial passages were only good for short-distance transmissions between the wildernesses. There were only two larger spatial passages that could handle transmissions between stellar regions. One of those two larger spatial passages was in the northern Darkstar continent, which Jian Wushuang used to set off to the Narcissus territory. The other one was located in Longyu City. Many cultivators were gathered in a lively tavern inside of Longyu City. Longyu City was a popular city to cultivators, with some being powerful experts due to its special geographical location and the existence of a spatial passage. Guys, have you heard about the bounty announced not long ago? Several Ultimate God Realm cultivators had gathered and were discussing recent events. I've heard it, of course. The reward was personally issued by several top forces within the Danyang Holy Domain, with the bounty being the Northern Darkstar Territorial Lord. The reward amount is 100 million primordial stones. In addition, this reward isn't for us to kill the Territorial Lord, but just merely provide information. In other words, all we need to do is to report his whereabouts to those top forces who offered the reward if we luckily happen to see the Territorial Lord. We'll be paid 100 million primordial stones once the information has been verified to be correct. Just bumped into him, report his whereabouts, and we'll get 100 million primordial stones? My goodness! Ha ha! 1 million primordial stones is an astronomical number to ordinary ultimate gods like us. We're talking about 100 million primordial stones. It's crazy. Those top forces are so generous. I wonder how the Territorial Lord offended them. I don't know how, but the Territorial Lord is in trouble now. I can't imagine the number of people eyeing for the 100 million primordial stones bounty on his head. His whereabouts will be reported to the top forces immediately as long as he dares show himself. I'm sure they'll send someone over to kill him as soon as possible. Everyone in the tavern could hear them clearly, as those ultimate gods were very loud. Some people reacted to the news with sighs, while others were of course delighted. No one noticed a chilly and aloof young man in a black robe was sitting in a corner. This cold and aloof black-robed young man with dark skin had a trace of hostility between his eyebrows. He seemed normal at first glance, but if some powerful expert carefully studied him using the soul power, they would soon discover that his facial muscles were a bit strange. His facial muscles had been deliberately stretched and distorted to change his appearances. In other words, his current appearance was a disguise. The disguise technique was well known but could still probably trick some weaker cultivators. The truth could only be discovered easily by powerful experts using soul power. Would anyone deliberately activate their soul power to investigate someone without any reason in a tavern? The true identity of the cold, aloof, black-robed young man was none other than the Territorial Lord everyone was talking about. It was Jian Wushuang. 100 million primordial stones just for a piece of information. Ha ha, the Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect think very highly of me. Jian Wushuang was leisurely sipping a bowl of wine with a smile on his face. His mood was unaffected by the reward. Not counting the amount of time he had a bounty on his head in his past life, it had also happened quite a few times in his current life as well. It happened once when he was in the saint's tomb located at Wuxia Wilderness, where many sects had jointly offered a reward for his head. The bounty was offered with everyone being aware of his specific location and had to kill him. Meanwhile, the recent bounty announcement had caused an uproar and attracted more powerful experts. In the end, the big world made it too difficult to locate him if he decided to go into hiding. In fact, he was currently seated in a tavern where he was the topic of discussion, but no one even recognized him. They had his portrait and information on his cultivation level, which specifically indicated he was a peak Earth ultimate god. The Life and Death Tower and Divine Demon sect would be surprised to find out that Jian Wushuang's cultivation realm was nowhere near what they thought. He was only a primary level Earth ultimate god.